The Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship in association with Grove & Dean Motorsport Insurance and Toyo Tyres.
Hello and welcome to the BRSCC Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship. Last time out, the series hit the long straights of Snetterton. This time they've headed north to the tight, twisty and technical layout of Cadwell Park in Lincolnshire. The championship always goes well here, and as it's a circuit that's been dubbed the Nürburgring of the North, it should test both man and machine to the absolute limit. It's certainly going to be two action-packed races, so let's get stuck in with preparations for race number one.
Very, very healthy entry here at Cadwell Park, and the entry headed by Graham Seeger, who starts on pole position, Roger Evans alongside, then Brian Shrubb and Roger McMahon. Chris Snowden and Andy Robinson on row 3. Barry McMahon I think may be missing. We've got Ray Foley in the Power Trophy, he's the Power Trophy pole. Nick Anderson's not with us, but did qualify. In the Twin Sparks, James Bishop, defending champion from Paul Plant, then it's James Ford and Simon Cresswell. Andy Hancock and Steve Potts, then Tom Hill and Richard Stevens. James Browning with Andy Inman, then Richard Ford, Jeremy Chilton, Luther Blissett, Paul Webster and David Messenger should complete the grid. The lights go out and Graham Seeger makes a very good start. Keep your eyes on the orange 33 of Brian Shrubb, who's looking up the inside line. Could work for him here. Seeger's left that gap for him. Off the line, through go the Twin Sparks, who have a separate grid to the modified and power trophies. As I said, a splendid field, and we're actually missing a couple of cars. Brian Shrubb is up to second. Roger Evans is third. Fourth place is the number 12, Chris Snowden, in his 33. So Snowden, here we go with Chris. We spent a lot of time on him at our Rockingham round, and behind him is car number 29, Roger McMahon, followed by Andy Robinson in his 156. Then it's Ray Foley. Ray already got his mirrors full of the Twin Sparks. Paul Plant there coming under pressure from Simon Cresswell. And then Tom Hill in the black and gold 78 car. I was going to say 78 car. 79 Dave Messenger, who's not in this race, and we'll talk about that later. And look at this move now from Roger McMahon, who squeezes past. He goes past Chris Snowden into fourth place. Snowden's got some work to do, but he's got some power there. Goes back up the inside in car with Chris Snowden, claiming back fourth place. No, he doesn't. And McMahon reclaims fourth position, and this is all on lap one. But we know that races aren't won on lap one, but these boys are certainly getting stuck in, which is great to see. Graham Seeger through Hall Bends is the race leader from Brian Shrubb, with Roger Evans in third place. Evans going tight there, having a look. Too far back to do anything at the moment. He's got to be mindful of Roger McMahon as well, who having shot past Chris Snowden, who's dropped back just a little bit. There is Luther Blissett, the former England international professional footballer, who enjoys his racing very much here in the BRSCC Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship. So James Bishop has got Ray Foley between himself and James Ford in the red 23. Then we've got Andy Hancock running in the Grove & Dean car, third place at the moment in class. Here is Andy in white blue. Paul Plant immediately behind, the black car with the white stripes. And this is a very good look at Plant and Hancock engaged in battle. So they go along the park straight. Meanwhile, Graham Seeger starting to try and develop a bit of a lead from Roger Evans. Qualifying wise, these cars were all very close. This is really translating itself from the qualifying session into the race, and we've got very close battle going on for the lead. Roger Evans was tight there and thinking about looking down the inside. He goes back to the racing line, the outside line, so this could be about momentum up the hill and through Old Hall Bends when they get there. We've still got Brian Shrub running in third place. Shrub still looking for his first win of the season. He hasn't been off the podium thus far. And Seeger, confident wide line there up the mountain. Now we've got Chris Snowden back into fourth place. So Snowden back into fourth in the top five, very close indeed. Andy Robinson in sixth, but as you can see, there's very little track between those six runners at the moment. Look at Snowden, wide line there to the old hairpin and into Barn and then downhill. So we go back and pick up the scrap between Richard Stevens in 91. Tom Hill is chasing, the teenager from Brighton chasing at the moment, and I mentioned the fact that we've got teenagers racing because it's a problem for James Bishop is passed and James Ford takes the lead. Now that was near the pit entrance, so if it's a problem it's only just manifested itself, but certainly the defending champion, this year's championship leader James Bishop, passed for the lead. So a change of lead then in the Twin Spark Cup as we go back to Chris Snowden. I was starting to say about the age range of drivers. We've got drivers in their 60s, Ray Foley for example, 68 years of age. And then we've got teenagers like Tom Hill. So this championship has a universal appeal for drivers, and it's an extremely fun, competitive, cost-effective championship. Through goes Paul Plant, then Ray Foley, lone Power Trophy man. Nick Anderson, I think as I mentioned, having a suspected broken crank from qualifying, and maybe we'll see him out. David Messenger, the other key casualty from qualifying, although there was an awful lot of work done after qualifying yesterday. There's the leader of the Twin Sparks, James Ford, from Paul Plant, who's now up to second. So Plant seems to be on a little bit of a run. The 31-year-old from Copthorne, overall champion back in 2009. So a seasoned and successful racer in the Alfa Romeo Championship, and he is chasing hard at the moment. Plant started in second place behind James Bishop, but it's James Ford from third on the grid in the Twin Spark Cup who is the race leader, and here he is in car number 23. So he's had a win, a second and a third in class thus far this year, so he's looking for his second class win, which may happen here. And unusual to see James Bishop out of I can't remember the last time that James Bishop posted a retirement, the 26-year-old from Aylesbury, but he's going to have some work to do in race 2 because he'll be off the back of the grid. Meanwhile, the four Musketeers are still at it, and this the view from the fourth of those, Chris Snowden chasing hard. Brian Shrub is immediately in front of him, the 7 car. Second place is Roger Evans. Graham Seeger is still there as well. Evans, remember, won both races at Rockingham. Graham Seeger so far, he missed the Rockingham round. We did see him at Snetterton, but Seeger has 3 outright wins, and that was the look back from Roger Evans' car. So this is really great. The circuit seems to have levelled these top 4 out, and it's a wonderful scrap between the 4 of them, all in the modified class, as we look at Luther Blissett in 48 trying to go down the inside of Richard Ford. So Luther at the moment in 9th place in class, Richard in 8th position, behind them Jeremy Chilton and Paul Webster. So through goes Andy Hancock, who's running 3rd in class. 4th in class is Richard Stevens, being chased by Tom Hill in number 5, and Tom, who's actually so far this year, aside from 2 retirements, not finished off the podium, so this could be his first finish off the podium. He's got a lot of work to do to try and get on terms with the race leaders. Here though is James Ford leading the Twin Sparks. Second place is Paul Plant, that's where he qualified. Then we've got this is 8th place overall, Ray Foley, the lone starter in the Power Trophy, followed by Andy Hancock in the Grove and Dean car. Then Richard Stevens and Tom Hill. A little bit of a gap between the pair of them at the moment. So there is the last of going through the white and blue car, third in the Twin Sparks, but back to the overall lead. This is absolutely superb. A game of cat and mouse here with the lead four runners all very much together. James Ford looking okay. He's got the fastest lap in the Twin Sparks at the moment. Fastest laps are being traded by the lead quartet, and appropriately we go back to them. Graham Seeger, but look at Chris Snowden challenging for second place, goes to the outside, dives to the inside line. I think there's going to be room left here by Roger Evans, and Chris Snowden couldn't quite go through, but that was a very good try there by Chris Snowden, veteran of the championship. The camera, as you can see, accentuating the distance between the cars here. So Snowden dropping back now into the clutches of Brian Shrub, who's in fourth place, and Roger Evans still in second. The race leader starting to get into some backmarker traffic. 20-minute race, which is the norm for BRSCC, British Racing and Sports Car Club races, which encourages the drivers to behave themselves because a safety car would eat into that time. So the 91 Richard Stevens potentially here on for his best finish of the season. He's fourth in class, had a fifth place last time out at Snetterton, so that's going to be good for him. But we go back to the battle for the lead, which we'll rejoin after the break. Welcome back to Cadwell Park for round 8 of the BRSCC Alfashop Alfa Romeo Trophy, and it's a big scrap on for the race lead. It's Graham Seeger well into backmarker traffic now, who goes through past the 48 of Luther Blissett. Second position is Roger Evans, then it's Chris Snowden running in third from Brian Shrub. Andy Inman's the next target. He's running 7th place. That's the purple car with the yellow flashes, 7th position in the Twin Spark Cup. And here's Chris Snowden along Park Straight and squeezes through. Snowden goes into second place. Great manoeuvre. You have to bide your time here at Cadwell Park. He did. He's through. There's Chris Snowden. Andy Inman goes through in 7th position behind him. He's a lap down now. The next car is, I think, going to be James Browning, who's going to be lapped by the race leader. James Ford, though, is 6th overall, but leading the Twin Spark Cup, looking for his second win of the year. James Bishop, the championship leader, having retired early on in the race, his first retirement for a long time. There is Andy Robinson, who is running in 5th place, and Andy Hancock going through shot, who's in 3rd. And I tell you what, not that far ahead of Richard Stevens and Tom Hill. Hill running in 5th place, but look at this great battle that we've got. Roger Evans trying to get back on the case of Chris Snowden. Graham Seeger not that much further ahead again. And Evans, who wants to pick up a 3rd win of the year, is away from that at the moment. It's Graham Seeger in 53, the 54-year-old who leads this one. So here we go with Chris Snowden once again chasing hard. So 2nd position, and chases down the hill. The engine note, the sound absolutely superb in that car, but they go on to the last lap. 2.189 miles to go in round 8 of the championship. So Graham Seeger is starting again, I think, to respond to Chris Snowden's pressure. Snowden in 2nd place, Roger Evans is 3rd, Brian Shrub still in 4th. We look at Roger Evans in 3rd place, completing the modified podium at the moment, but Graham Seeger has got a little bit of a lead. This has been a great race. Now the sector times telling us that Brian Shrub is on for a very quick lap here. He's back in 4th, so it's been between these 4 guys. A superb race thus far. It's not over yet, neither is it over for James Ford here, who leads the Twin Spark Trophy. James Bishop, the championship leader, remember, out of it. Dave Messenger second in the championship, had engine problems in qualifying. He's not out for this race. So Graham Seeger, who's third in the championship, is going to make points up on those guys in the overall standings. He leads the modified class in the championship ahead of Andy Robinson, with Brian Shrub third in the modified class. A much simpler three-class structure this year that the guys behind the Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship have put together. But we're on the last lap, coming up to the last few corners, and as you can see, Chris Snowden coming under pressure from Roger Evans. Up in behind them, we've still got Brian Shrub. He's in fourth place. Shrub's on his way to a fastest lap, but it's going to be Graham Seeger to take a fourth win of the year. He won the double at Silverstone, he won at Alton Park, and he's going to win here at Cadwell. He takes it, but it's a delighted Chris Snowden who is in second place ahead of Roger Evans. Meanwhile, the Twin Sparks are very much still engaged in battle as the leaders will acknowledge the fans and the marshals and officials here at Cadwell Park. Let's take a look at the overall win. Graham Seeger the winner from Chris Snowden, Roger Evans, Brian Shrub and Andy Robinson. Win in Twin Spark for James Ford from Paul Plant. Ray Foley wins Power Trophy, and it was Andy Hancock third in the Twin Sparks from Richard Stevens, then Tom Hill, James Browning, Andy Inman, Luther Blissett, Richard Ford, Jeremy Chilton and Paul Webster in 17th.
Graham, good to talk to you in a brilliant race victory, but I'm sure even though it was great to get the victory, couldn't have been fun having to hold off the seething mob behind to take it. How was it from your point of view?
Seething mob, yeah. It was hard work. I knew I was much quicker through a lot of the lap, but through the slower bits, I obviously had a hard time, as you saw. They were much quicker than me through there, so I had to take a defensive line each and every lap, and I was just very conscious one slight miss and I'd have it. But yeah, Peak Alpha Supercharged GTV was just absolutely fantastic and pulled out where it needed to, yeah.
Second place in race one was number 12 with Chris Stone, the car tucked away from the evening under its covers. But Chris, brilliant race from you and really fast and frantic at the front. How was that from your point of view?
It was absolutely manic. I mean, we had a really bad qualifying, and we did a load of little changes. We hadn't changed the car since Rockingham, which was our last outing, which was wet, and we hadn't changed anything particularly. And the brakes were in the wrong place, the shock absorbers were all wrong. This is all racing driver excuses for bad qualifying. And then I spoke to John, and this is probably his last race. It's John's car, Don Sismy's car, and he very kindly lets me drive it. And he's sort of retiring at the end of this year, but maybe after this race. So we wanted to give him something to remember us by. And that was probably, I've been racing Alphas for too many years now, and it's really up there in the top three of races. That was you know, it's nice to win, but it's just good to have a race.
So let's have a chat to third place in race one, returning to the championship, former double champion Roger Evans. Roger, good to see you back, and good to see you brought the 147 back as well. Certainly a baptism of fire coming back, because you had quite a race on your hands.
I did, yes. Yeah, we didn't have the best start, and I was into third place, and then pressurised him, got back into second, and then sort of got up behind Graham, and well, I couldn't quite find a way past.
You were saying to Graham it seemed to be he had the edge on the straights, but on the twisty sections you really were able to catch up, especially exiting the mountain. You were right on his back bumper at some cases.
Actually touching it, actually connected. I think if we could have put a tow bar on it.
So what more for race two do you feel that you can get out of the 147 to get the edge on Graham? Or just try and get a better start and defend like crazy?
Oh, rain or push him out the way, I think.
So let's have a chat to our Power Trophy class winner, Ray Foley, with his wonderful Alfa 156. Ray, good to see, and a good sole victory for you, the only car in the class, but looked like you had some fun with the Twin Spark Cup cars out there.
Yeah, I did. It was a little bit difficult because I only had 5 cylinders today, and I realised the leaders of the Twin Sparks were slightly quicker than me. So I got out of the way of the class leaders so that they could get past and have their own battle. But yeah, it was a bit difficult on 5 cylinders, but we've got the car sorted for tomorrow morning. So hopefully tomorrow you'll see a different car and a little bit in front of the Twin Sparks.
Let's have a chat with our Twin Spark Cup winner for race one, which was James Ford. James, brilliant performance from you. It was a pretty strong one that saw you pull away for a while, but looked as though it had fun out there despite the fact that you didn't have many people challenging you.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, Paul was only a couple of seconds behind me, really, all the way through to the end. It was really tough. I was pushing probably harder than it looked from the outside, and I'm sure Paul was too. very much a case of trying to keep a gap there, so he wasn't close enough to make any moves, and I was having to work very hard to do so. So it wasn't as easy as it looked, definitely not.
You've got race 2 coming up. Obviously, you've got quite one of your teammates alongside you in Paul Plant, so should be pretty tricky. But how much of a battle are you expecting?
Right to the end, definitely.
Let's have a quick chat before this race starts to one of the more esteemed drivers on the grid, and it's in the Twin Spark Cup. And one football fans who might be more used to his name, it's former England and AC Milan star Luther Blissett. Luther, good to see you on the grid. Normally to see you in a football context, but fantastic to see you racing. What brings you to motorsport?
Well, I've always been a big motorsport fan, and I actually managed to do a celebrity race back in about '99 for Vauxhall in the as part of the Toka package, and then that just confirmed to me this is something I should be doing.
Excellent. And how have you found it so far compared to obviously your exploits in football? How does that compare?
Well, football's a lot easier, trust me, because I don't have to depend on the car and stuff like that. I just get out there and do it. So it's been a long learning thing for me, and I'm slowly beginning to get the feel of the car and how to deal with different tracks and all the technical stuff, tyres and that. So get in there slowly, slow increments.
Let's also have a chat to one of the top guys in the modified category. It's the number 25 of Brian Schwab. Brian, good to see you. How have fortune's been so far this weekend?
Pretty good, really. We came 4th yesterday, but we was part of a train of 4 cars that were dicing throughout the whole race. So we finished 1.8 seconds apart, the whole 4 of us. So it was really good fun.
And tell us about the car you've got, because of course you've got an Alfa 33. Tell us about how you've managed to develop the car and how it's performing for you so far.
Well, the car was built predominantly by my father, who was BLS Automotive in Lincoln, so we're a local team. We raced an Alfa Sud beforehand. So from 93 to 97, and in 1998 we actually started racing this car. So it's got quite a history, it's won quite a lot of races. Modifications have been along the lines of increasing power really as we've gone along. So 3 years ago we went to 16 valve power, and it's going well for that, so yeah, good.
Brian lines up 4th on the grid for this one. Roger Evans alongside, and ahead of him Chris Snowden and Graham Seeger on pole. Row 3, Andy Robinson and Ray Foley. Roger McMahon hopefully completing the grid. In the Twin Sparks, James Ford assumes pole from Paul Plant, then Andy Hancock and Richard Stevens. Tom Hill on row 3 with James Browning. Andy Inman and Luther Blissett ahead of Richard Ford and Jeremy Chilton. Then Paul Webster and James Bishop back on the 12th row. Simon Cresswell, Steve Potts and Dave Messenger are all there as well. Lots of repairs since race number 1. The lights are on. Out they go. Graham Seeger looking to make it a double. Chris Snowden on the outside line. Roger Evans on the inside this time. That's the one that Brian Schwab had, of course, in race number 1. It's a cracking start. Good start too from the Twin Sparks led by James Ford. And coming up the inside, it's Chris Snowden that leads. Graham Seeger in 2nd place. 3rd position is Roger Evans with Brian Schwab in 4th, up ahead of Andy Robinson. This the view from Paul Plant, who's all over the back of James Ford, who won race 1. Ford's getting in amongst the slower modifieds and power trophy runners, so they've got a battle amongst those as well as amongst themselves. But it's Chris Snowden leading from Graham Seeger. Snowden looking for his first outright win of the year, had 3rd and 2nd at Silverstone. A brace of retirements at Rockingham. More after the break. Welcome back to Cadwell Park. It's Chris Snowden leading from Graham Seeger, then Roger Evans. Roger McMahon in 29, piling the pressure on as well. McMahon, you might remember in race number 1, was on that outside line coming up to this corner, challenging Chris Snowden. Snowden's in the lead here from Seeger. Andy Robinson's next up, then it's Ray Foley. Here's the battle for the Twin Sparks, side by side. Paul Plant in 20 has a very good look there. At 23, James Ford, who started on pole position. Plant loses a little bit of ground there. Going up the hill, he's got to remount that challenge. So this is round 9 of the BRSCC Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship. Next time out, we are at Brands Hatch. That's the 23rd of August. So make sure if you're in the vicinity, come and see us and enjoy some great BRSCC racing action and some terrific Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship action. And who knows, maybe go and talk to some of the teams if you fancy coming and and joining this club and having a go at racing. If you've not thought about racing before, it's worth it. And this is a superb championship to come and join, whether you're an experienced racer or a newcomer, all catered for. Through goes Ray Foley. Andy Hancock, third place at the moment, being chased by Richard Stevens in the 91. The Grove and Dean car. The Grove and Dean, great supporters of this championship. And they put up a Driver of the Weekend award at the end of each racing event. Here comes Ray Foley in the Power Trophy. James Ford still up ahead of Paul Plant. So those two leading what was Class E last year, the Twin Spark Cup for this year. Ford looking to make it 2 out of 2 here at Cadwell Park. And Paul Plant, the former champion, working hard to try and close down. Great onboard shot. Difficult to know whether to look ahead as Paul is doing or watch Paul with his excellent car control. Tom Hill's having a look at Richard Stevens on the inside line. Tom, the Sussex teenager, getting stuck in well. But look at this battle at the front again. And the merging of the classes this year has been an absolute success. No question about it. Chris Snowden, the leader. Graham Seeger, a little bit of drift at the moment. And half a dozen car lengths behind. Roger McMahon third. Then it's number 7, Roger Evans, followed by Brian Shrub. Shrub down to 5th from his 4th position start. Then it's Andy Robinson in his 156, and this is the 5th place man ahead of him, Brian Shrub. There's Robinson in the blue car. Quick look back to Andy Inman, who goes through ahead of Luther Blissett. Then 79, David Messenger. First time we've seen that car in this programme. Remember, had the engine failure, so he started from stone last. Didn't start in race number 1. Fitted the new engine, and it looks like the engine's doing the business for him, so he's running well. And so too is James Bishop in car number 1. So Bishop had a problem in race number 1. It was a throttle problem. Started at the back of the grid. His first retirement for absolutely yonks. He's back out. Steve Potts, the other key retiree, probably need to talk about, had a blown engine. That's been replaced courtesy of Bianco Auto Developments again. And back to the modified guys at the front. A little bit of space developing between the 6 of them in actual fact, where it was 4 or 5 close for the lead in race 1. And as they come down the hill, actually the top 3 very little to choose from them, and Roger McMahon getting in towards Chris Snowden now. Richard Ford and Luther Blissett go through. Those guys dicing to get up into the top 10 of the Twin Sparks. Very, very healthy entry this weekend, and Snowden's been passed now by Seeger. So Graham Seeger has come through into lead position. Chris Snowden down into second. Then we've got Roger McMahon in the 147. Following McMahon, it's Roger Evans, and then Brian Shrub in 5th place. Andy Robinson still there. This is the view from Chris Snowden down the hill. And look at the 5 cars virtually all in line. Andy Robinson not too far away as well. Remember, Robinson is second in the modified class championship through some good speed and consistency as well. This is the view from Shrub, but look at the battle we've got on for 3rd place. Roger Evans made it round the outside, but Roger McMahon's got back in front. It's a job to know where to look here. Reigning champion, championship leader James Bishop is in the mix and working his way through the field. He's got Tom Hill. Major scalp if he can get past Tom Hill here. Tom, of course, 3rd in the championship standings for the Twin Sparks. So we go back. Oh, very squirrely back end there on Roger McMahon, and this is going to allow Roger Evans to close up. We go in car with Roger Evans. Now, he'll have seen that, and he'll continue to work away until he can try and get up and maybe in a position to challenge for 3rd place. Meanwhile, it's Seeger and Snowden still out front. Snowden chasing hard, and they're heading up in towards the mountain section now. Snowden on a very wide line there. Oh, getting very close, and on the brakes the back end wants to break away. He was really closing up big time there. He seemed to have a much better run up into the mountain section. He doesn't, of course, want to cause any damage. I think that's why he went on the brakes. He did have a superb run, but that's now dropped him back into Roger McMahon and Roger Evans, who are immediately behind. But I'm sure we'll see Chris Snowden get back on the case and try and mount a challenge to reclaim the lead. Remember, he led lap number 1. They go down the hill. Brian Shrub still in 5th place. back to the battling pair in the Twin Sparks. James Ford still the leader. Here comes Paul Plant though, getting very close as they come down into Barn Corner. Damn the brake lights of the car in front, and Plant here seems to have good momentum, comes out of the slipstream, powers his way down the hill. Is he going to get his nose in front by the time they get to Coppice, the left-hander? Yes, he does. Paul Plant leads the Twin Spark Cup ahead of James Ford. The question now is, will James Ford be able to retaliate, or is he going to drift away? Maybe his tyres are perhaps starting to go off. Meanwhile, here's the battle between Roger Evans and Roger McMahon. Evans goes through, Brian Schrubb's coming up as well. Now, was that little wiggle we saw a couple of laps ago a problem with McMahon's car? Because Brian Schrubb's all over him now, and it seems to be backwards progress, doesn't it, for Roger McMahon. There is Roger Evans, who's up into third place now in the Peak Alpha 147 GTA. Roger McMahon actually has got a bit of space now between himself and Brian Schrubb. Through goes Chris Snowden, starting to build that momentum again, and looks like he might get on the case and challenge Seeger, which he's doing now. So he's right up with Seeger, and very clearly Snowden's car working on the uphill sections here. He seems to find that extra power, gets the car set up well to go up the mountain. He's piling the pressure on. Look how they're all closing up again, the top four together. A gap back to Brian Schrubb in fifth place at the moment, but Brian will try everything he can to go through. Paul Plant coming back under pressure from James Ford, so we've got a real scrap on for third place in Twin Spark is the white and blue car, Andy Hancock's, but Paul Plant is the leader, but runs wide, goes on the grass, and that allows James Ford to go through and reclaim the class lead. That is how close this is. A mistake from Paul Plant. This is where he took the lead earlier on in the race, and now he's got to do all the hard work again. Ray Foley goes through in front of us. He's the lone Power Trophy runner, on for more points. That will help his championship standings. Remember, Foley fourth in the overall championship coming into this meeting, and I reckon he might even go third in the standings, maybe on drop scores, but we'll keep abreast of that and tell you what's happening at the end. But this is the view from the battling pair in the Twin Spark Trophy as we go back to Richard Stevens ahead of Simon Cresswell. Cresswell having suspension damage repaired after contact in race number one. Here is Paul Webster, the man from Beeston, 49 years of age, and good to see him back with the championship after a retirement in the opening round of the season at Silverstone. And there's Tom Hill, who makes a little mistake, goes wide. Up in front of him, James Bishop did get past the championship leader, but back with the race leaders now, and out front it's still Graham Seeger from Chris Snowden in second place. Third position is Roger Evans. Fourth place, Roger McMahon. Fifth position is still Brian Schrubb. Very little to choose between these four drivers. So down the hill, across the line, ticking off another lap in this 20-minute Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship race up towards Coppice, the left-hander. If they look across, they'll see the Twin Spark boys coming on the, what we can refer to as the back straight here. So Graham Seeger running well here. This is good for his championship points, third in the championship. Oh, there's a little bit of a gesticulation there from Chris Snowden. Now Chris has got his lights on, so too has the third place man, Roger Evans, and they're both harrying the race leader. Roger McMahon now seems to be falling back into the clutches of Brian Schrubb. So they go through, Brian Schrubb right behind him, but it's Graham Seeger still out front. Chris Snowden losing a little bit of ground here. Will he close in down the hill and in towards the mountain section? Oh, Graham Seeger's all over the place and through into the lead, reclaiming lead position goes Chris Snowden, looking for his first win of the season. So Snowden is through. This is where he was quicker earlier on, under the footbridge here, and up the hill through into second place has gone Roger Evans, and Graham Seeger's down to third with Roger McMahon right behind him. This is the battle for third place in the Twin Sparks, and through from virtually the back of the grid, James Bishop is now teeing up Andy Hancock. So this has been a very good drive from James Bishop to come through from the back Like I said, a lot of people say you don't get overtaking here at Cadwell. Well, the Alfa Romeo Championship has proved that you do. Roger McMahon looking to try and go through past Graham Seeger. Chris Snowden getting into backmarker traffic. Jeremy Chilton's going to be the next one. The black and green car, he keeps well over. Great driving from Jeremy. As through go the race leader, Roger Evans, chasing Chris Snowden. Evans started third. Snowden started in second. James Bishop still at head. This is the scrap third in the twin spots. It is absolutely impossible to know where to look. Plenty of action for the spectators here at Cadwell Park. And James Bishop wants a podium. Can he get it? Join us after the break to see. Side by side for the lead of the Twin Spark Cup, and Paul Plant is trying everything to go around the outside line. Can he do it? Going into the left-hander coppice, he's done it! Plant goes through, and you saw how on the edge he was, and he goes past James Ford. Is relegated once again to second position. A great race between the pair of them. Meanwhile, second in the championship coming to Cadwell Park, car number 79, Dave Messenger, trying to get on terms with Andy Inman, the 58-year-old, the 80 car, man from Newcastle. Tell you what, the battle for the lead isn't finished yet, is it? James Ford trying everything to get back on terms with Paul Plant, the Bianco teammates, putting the friendship to one side when they get on to track and really getting stuck in. But this is the battle for the lead. Chris Snowden, the race leader. Roger Evans, lights ablaze as well, in second position behind him, going up into Coppice. Left-hander, right-hander round into Charlie's. It looks like Evans is carrying very good pace here in the Peak Alpha machine and chasing hard. Snowden, though, the leader from Evans. Third position is Graham Seeger. You can see the back markers in the Twin Spark Trophy starting to loom, so they'll have to sort themselves out and get through. Brian Shrub now up into fourth place, so Roger McMahon dropped away and I think sadly out of the race. This is the view from Chris Snowden having to deal with back markers. Watch this spectacular downhill run. Car number 31, the man they passed, Richard Ford, moves dutifully out of the way. It was good driving and considerate racing from Richard, not involved in his own battle, and the top three go through. Graham Seeger in third place. Brian Shrub's just set the fastest lap of the race as we go back to the scrap for 10th position in the Twin Sparks between Andy Inman and David Messenger. Messenger's been trying to come through, started right at the very back of the grid. He has made progress, but seems to be halted just a moment with that new engine on board. Meanwhile, back to the race leaders coming out of Barn Corner now and down the hill. And are we going to see a challenge being mounted by Roger Evans? He's at the moment following Snowden wheel for wheel. Seeger and Shrub there as well. The top four really all in the mix, and we are seeing a challenge here. So Evans looking pretty sharp here and getting right behind Chris Snowden, the race leader. Is there half a gap? Evans is going for it, tags the back end of Snowden, who gets very wobbly. Was there contact again? I think there must have been, because Evans goes round, Seeger sideways on the grass, Shrub goes through very slowly on the grass. And that is going to be, is it curtains for Chris Snowden, who's going to rejoin. There is Brian Shrub, who in fact has taken the lead. So Shrub has got the lead. We saw a very sideways Graham Seeger. Brian Shrub, who had to go past on the grass, and he went very gingerly past on the grass. As I said, did set the fastest lap of the race, but has come through from fourth place after that skirmish between Roger Evans and Chris Snowden. Evans went for a gap that perhaps wasn't really there. Steve Potts in 21, he's raced well. He's got up ahead now of Tom Hill to take fifth position in class. So Potts from the penultimate row of the grid, a terrific drive by Steve Potts. So he's going to go away with a positive here at the end of the meeting. Obviously the negative being the problems that he had earlier on. But this is Brian Shrub, race leader, climbing up the mountain, chasing these two guys who are debating 10th place at the moment in the Twin Sparks. So Shrub closing up. Graham Seeger is in second, so has got past Chris Snowden and Roger Evans, I think, are going to go into retirement. And this is the battle continuing still for the lead of the Twin Spark Cup, with Paul Plant up ahead of race 1 winner James Bishop. Brian Shrub, though, goes on to his last lap here at Cadwell, and he's got a very good margin here, so barring any errors, and we haven't seen any so far, Shrub is going to take 2 fastest laps, a 4th position in race number 1 and his first win of the season. The 44-year-old from Crewe is well on his way. So back down the order, there is Ray Foley, of course the lone runner in the Power Trophy, up ahead of Luther Blissett. Luther running 13th at the moment in the Twin Spark. Simon Cresswell has come up into 8th place in the Twins. Started on the penultimate row of the group with Steve Potts. Jeremy Chilton is going to be caught by the class leaders who are about to start their last lap. Paul Plant still up ahead of James Bishop. So Essex racer Chilton, 53 years of age, will have spotted the race leaders class-wise behind him. Meanwhile, around about half a lap or so ahead of them, it's the overall leader, Brian Shrub, who's now got past the duelling pair of Messenger and Andy Inman. So Brian Shrub is well clear, fastest lap of the race as well. David Messenger still having a look to try and get that 10th position in the Twin Sparks. But Brian Shrub is going to come out of the last corner down the hill, and he'll see the checkered flag. This is the view from the race leader, and there's what he wanted to see, the checkered flag. Applause from the pit wall for Brian Shrub, who takes the win. Across the line in second place goes car number 53, Graham Seeger. Third place is Andy Robinson. So Robinson's come through, cementing his place up at the sharp end of the championship. So it's a podium for Andy, but Brian Shrub takes the overall win here. Meanwhile, across the line, Ray Foley wins the Power Trophy, and behind him, Paul Plant has actually pulled clear now of James Ford, and third place in class goes to James Bishop in car number 1. Brian Shrub, the winner, also picks up the Grove and Dean driver of the weekend. Graham Seeger second from Andy Robinson and Ray Foley. Paul Plant next from James Ford and James Bishop. Andy Hancock next from Steve Potts and Tom Hill. James Browning from Simon Cresswell. Richard Stevens, Andy Inman 14th from Dave Messenger. Then Richard Ford, Luther Blissett, Jeremy Chilton and Paul Webster.
Amazing race between you guys up at the front, including what was quite a bit of a skirmish towards the end of the race. Just talk us through how it all played out from your point of view.
The start was quite a good start, but then Roger McMahon got past me in the 147. I think he just got more heat in his tyres quicker than I did. But I was quicker than him, so it took about 5 or 6 laps to get past him here because it's so narrow. Once I'd done that, I towed up to the back of the 3 cars in front, and whilst I didn't think I was going to be able to get past them, I thought there was a reasonable likelihood of them all taking each other off. So I kept my fingers crossed, and about 2 laps from the end they did exactly that.
Okay, Graham, good to see you get another good result. Really mixing it up there, lots of battling back and forth. It looked like fun, might not have been so much from where you were sitting.
It was fun, yeah, it was a really good race. I started off on pole, and I thought I was managing to control the race in the same way as I did yesterday. That plan fell apart when I got a half spin going down the gooseneck, and Roger and Chris came down the inside of me, sort of thing.
What do you think was the reason why you're a little bit off the pace that you were from yesterday?
I don't know. I changed some things on the setup rather than engine. So engine was exactly the same. That shouldn't have been any different. Tyres, inevitably the track, I think, was a little bit greasier than it was yesterday, and certainly some of the lines just weren't there anyway. They were still damp on the track. So maybe a mixture of those things.
So Andy, good to see you on the podium. But I guess I speak for quite a few people. You didn't really expect to be there, but it's good to see you up here nonetheless.
No, Cadwell was my bogey circuit. Every time I come here, I either have a big accident or the car breaks or something. So I've been very cautious yesterday and finished well adrift of the first 4. So. But I had them in sight all the way today, and that really chuffed me. I was pleased with that. I managed to pick off one car, and then the others, I think, had a bit of a nonsense up the hill, and I passed 2 others who went off. So I was really pleased I was right there to do it. So.
So let's have a chat to Ray Foley. Of course, took the honours again, the Power Trophy. Ray, this time running on 6 cylinders, so good to see you back on top form. Bit more of a lonely race, but just talk us through how that was for you.
Yeah, it was much better today. I managed to leave the twin sparks behind and not get in the way of their race, and have one of my own. As you say, it was very lonely, no other cars with me, but the modifieds all sort of went off and did their bit, and I couldn't keep up with them. But yeah, it went very well, and very pleased, happy, and I think I finished 4th in the race. I'm not totally certain, I think it was 4th in the race, so yeah, good race for me.
So after an amazing battle in the Twin Spark Cup, we've got the two guys who made it all possible. We've got Paul Plant and James Ford. We'll start with Paul, the man who took the victory. Great battle with your teammate. You came out on top.
But yeah, it was great. Yesterday he was quicker than me then as well, and I couldn't quite match his pace. But today it was just close enough all the time. And when he did make the mistake, I could capitalise on it and get in front. So it's good. I'm really chuffed.
I think you two also personified the fact that even though it is tight and twisty around here, it is possible to overtake, given you get the right opportunities and you find the right spots.
Yeah, you have to be close, and you have to have, the two drivers have to be understanding of each other, because there was a couple of times we were, particularly close. The tyre marks on the sides will show that. But if you're fair but hard and fair, you can do it. So it's good. I mean, I think we overtook 3 or 4 times through the course of the race, cleanly and fairly. So yes, it's a good testament of it.
Brilliant victory. I'll quick have a chat to James as well, because James again come away with 2 brilliant results. You've got to be happy with that. You get some points and a couple of bits of silverware to take home.
Yeah, very pleased. Very pleased. It's quite a productive weekend, and it's good fun racing with Paul. He's a really tough challenger, and he deserved to win today, and it was good to take my chance yesterday, so very happy.
And I'm expecting an obvious answer, but I'm presuming next time you two are out on track it's going to be more of the same?
I would think so. I'd like to think so anyway. It's always good fun when you have a good scrap with someone, and to overtake, like Paul said, 3 or 4 times at Cadwell is quite impressive, really, because you really do have to take your chances. You don't get many here.
So James Bishop still leads the championship by a single point from the leading modified racer, Graham Seeger. Ray Foley is 3rd, then Brian Shrubb, a tie between James Ford and Tom Hill, joint 5th from Andy Robinson, Dave Messenger, Andy Hancock and Paul Plant.
So that concludes another brilliant weekend racing for the Alfashop Alfa Romeo Championship. We've had action, drama and everything else in between, but congratulations to our overall and class winners. We'll catch you guys next time, but until then, thanks for watching and we'll see you then.